So, I've founded Essential Pelvic Health to be able to bring pelvic rehab to my area. I'd relocated from Boston about a year and a half ago, and I'm in the Chatham, New York area. So, kind of the upstate New York, as well as I'm right on the Massachusetts border, the Berkshire area as well. And our focus for today is going to be the Pregger's Playbook. So just, being able to go over some really important issues and topics and considerations during pregnancy, and to prepare for delivery, rather than waiting for after and just kind of not really getting the most or enjoying the most out of our pregnancy. A little bit about myself. I'm an occupational therapist. I've been practicing for 20 years, and I really started getting into pelvic rehab about 12 years ago. And I think maybe there's a little bit of like the universe intervening, because it took a little bit for me able to break into it. And I think it was, when I first got interested in it was before kids. And then life got busy. I had some roadblocks, and then I had kids. And then that's when I really, really found myself, moving forward and focusing and making sure it happened, because I really wish that I had more of the information and had gotten more of the experience for my pregnancies. But I think that's part of what's really motivating me, is to make sure that I get the information out there to our pregnant moms, and to know that there are things to do, and there are things that you can do to prepare yourself for a smoother recovery as well. So intentions for today, we're going to just do a brief introduction of pelvic floor muscles and their relationship with the different systems, and with pregnancy and delivery. We'll talk about delivery positions and options to consider. I didn't even know about midwives and doulas when I was pregnant, nor options of home delivery versus hospital, or all the different positions and locations as well. So I really like to make sure, I don't like to assume that people know this stuff, because I know I didn't. So rehab considerations, and then just to share and support and connect. Okay, so when we're talking about our pelvic floor, this is your pelvis, and this is the pubic bone in the front. Okay, and I'm going to tip it up so you can see the pelvic floor muscles are that cap at the bottom of the pelvis. So you have your tailbone, pubic bone, and then your sit bones. So it's like this nice diamond shape, okay, at the bottom of the pelvis. Okay, and the main functions, it has a lot of different roles. So one is sphincteric function. So it's maintaining continence as well as allowing for elimination for the bladder and for the bowel. You can see here the vaginal opening and urethra and the anus, that these muscles are coordinating both. They look like a hammock at the bottom of the bowl, and above the pelvic floor muscles down there, you have your bladder, your uterus, and your rectum, and they're lined up in the middle here. So the pelvic floor muscles are underneath those pelvic organs and supporting them. They're not holding them up. They're not the actual they're not what's actually supporting them and suspending them, but they are underneath supporting them. And then stability. So these bony landmarks that they attach to don't move. So when the pelvic floor muscles contract, they're creating tension through these bony landmarks, and that creates stability. So when you look at the pelvis, it is really kind of the center of our body, our upper body, and the connector from our upper body to our lower body. So, being able to stabilize the pelvis is what's going to give us, balance and security, and it's going to be able to protect our joints and our nervous system and everything surrounding it. It allows for sexual function, and it also acts as like a sump pump. So to be able to pump the circulation and the lymphatic system up and through, so you don't get pelvic congestion or pooling in the lower extremities. And then the main concept that I like to tease out is, for this specifically, is the fact that the pelvic floor muscles lengthen as well as shorten. So many people are very familiar with Kegel. And a Kegel is when you squeeze. So you've got two groups of pelvic floor muscles. We have the front muscles and then the deeper muscles. So these front muscles are around the opening, and they kind of help more for the squeezing and closing of the muscles, and then the deeper muscles are more for that lifting and supporting. So when you think of doing a Kegel, you want to try to get both muscle groups. And so when you think of contracting the pelvic floor muscles, you think of squeezing and closing, and then also lifting up, so you get those deeper muscles. And then when you let go of the pelvic floor, of that Kegel, that shortening contraction, then you go back down to rest, your resting tone. And then from rest, you can then lengthen the pelvic floor muscles. So these pelvic floor muscles at rest can then lengthen. And we'll talk a little bit about how to do that. But it's important to know, because so many people are focused. If they're thinking about their pelvis, if they're thinking about delivery or childbirth, just everything gets lumped in as, if it's my pelvic area, I need to strengthen and do Kegels. But so much of the time, especially for delivery, we want to be thinking about opening and yielding to be able to deliver. The baby is inside the uterus, and the uterus has a contractile awareness for delivery. And the baby also has an awareness of kind of how to shift and move and start to like descend during delivery. So they kind of, the body kind of knows what it's doing. And, we need to start to be able to tune into, how do we open and allow for that process to happen, rather than tensing up and forcefully pushing. A lot of times when we hold our breath and forcefully push, when we're straining a lot of our other systems. But two, when we strain and force, a lot of times that pelvic floor contracts and closes. So now we're kind of fighting against what we're looking to accomplish. So knowing if you should be doing a Kegel, it's good to know how to do a proper Kegel functionally, and as well as, after delivery, to already have that baseline and that mind-body connection to be able to start putting it back together. But really the focus for delivery prep should be that, sequencing the breath with the pelvic floor muscles and having that coordination to lengthen and open, and then apply some pressure to help the whole process. And then the pelvic floor muscle relationship with the breath and the core system. So I get into a lot of detail with this in my other calls, as well as some of my other videos. So we'll just kind of do an overview, and then we can dive into anything more a little deeper after. And then the effects of posture on the pelvis and the rib cage during pregnancy. Oh, all right. Yes. Actually, you know what? Let's talk about, let's go through, we talked about the lengthening of the pelvic floor muscles, how they can close and lift, and then how they can lengthen and open. And that's like the opposite of a Kegel. A Kegel is shortening and closing, and a reverse Kegel is that lengthening and opening. So we want to think about doing that with our breath, okay? So I'm just going to build the relationship of the pelvic floor with the diaphragm. So this is the pelvic floor down here, and this is your diaphragm up here. And they communicate, they work together with our breath. So when we inhale, the respiratory diaphragm compresses downwards, And in order to accommodate for that downward pressure, the pelvic floor lengthens as well. And the abdominal wall also expands. So that's on the inhale. On the exhale, they're rising back up. So I'm just